of those things, you can put a Venn diagram together, talk about your best traits, and then talk about the traits you like in other people. And I think you will be very surprised at how quickly you figure out who your best fit client is. My best
Yeah.
fit client is a 35 or older person who is an intellectual, wealthy, and left-leaning liberal. That's my best. So essentially, I'm a rich hippie realtor. Welcome, everyone. I'm Andrea Gordon. I'm your host on the Realizations podcast. And today we have a flip the script where a wonderful person who's becoming a realtor is going to ask me a bunch of questions. Her name is Jaclyn Wylde. And one thing is she lives in my neighborhood. She lives in Oakland. So we'll have a lot to talk about how you choose a brokerage, what you do when you're first new in the business, what are the best ways of going about doing everything. As you all know, my podcast was started when the NAR DOJ lawsuits occurred because I felt really terrible about how realtors were being disrespected. And I wanted to educate the American public about all the vagaries of what it is to be a real estate agent in this world. Welcome, Jaclyn.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you lending your knowledge. I would love to start at the beginning of your career and kind of what really inspired you to get into real estate and what has kept you in the business. Obviously, it's a tough business with lots of ups and downs, and what keeps you grinding.
And that is a very good word to use, grinding. Because most people, I remember when I first started in real estate, people were under the assumption that you just got your real estate license and then all of a sudden, like Vanna White, you sold a house and it was easy peasy. And it's very complicated and there's a lot involved and it is a grind, especially when world leaders start dropping bombs and ruining the economy.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time to be going into real estate. And I actually think that what's going to happen is you're going to be a million times more resilient than other people who got into it when you could sell a paper bag. Okay. A few years ago, everything was selling. In 2021, I did 82 transactions and I'm an individual agent. That is because we had these interest rates of 2.5%. So it was a great time to be a real estate agent because you made a lot of money. But
Yeah.
I actually think that going into a business like this when there is an economic downturn is a really good thing because it helps you to learn how to be resilient. It helps you to learn how to make sure you keep track of your pennies. Not that there are any pennies anymore, but it tells you how to be resilient and to bounce back from setbacks and to realize that you can make it. And then when things get easier, then you will be very successful because you'll have already learned how to be disciplined enough to do what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
And what keeps me grinding is just that I really love what I do.
Yeah.
I've been in it for so long and I'm old and I still love meeting with buyers and sellers and making their homes look beautiful and showing people beautiful homes and getting them into a home. I think it has a lot to do with my childhood where I was uprooted when I was 9. My father passed away and my mom moved us to New York City, which was a real culture shock coming from Berkeley, California.
I'm sure.
And I spent a very long time working my way back to Berkeley. And I think that for me, the metaphor of home is really crucial and important. And I think that because it's so important to me, it became my life's passion.
Yeah. I love that. So you're at Compass now. Have you been at Compass? Obviously, you haven't been at Compass your whole career. Compass is fairly new. What kind of things, when you made that move to Compass, what kind of things were you evaluating and deciding on when you were choosing to move brokerages?
It would be very different for me than it would be for you, but I'll give you a little trajectory. I've been at a lot of companies, so I understand how all of them function and what you need to figure out is important in each one. I've been at Compass for 7+ years, so I'm an early Compass member in the East Bay. And Robert Refkin actually himself courted me to come to Compass from Red Oak Realty because he grew up in Berkeley and he perceived me to be the quintessential Berkeley agent. And so he literally called me probably 15 times and kept upping the ante. And eventually I was like, okay, I'll come. But that's at the end of a long and very profitable career that I was getting a call
Yeah.
like that from somebody. In the beginning of my career, I initially went to a beautiful office in Daly City where I was living at the time called Century 21 Imperial. And the broker was a guy whose name was Muhammad Ahmed, and he was from Palestine. He was a very proud man, always dressed to beat the bandbox, very, very rigid, he was awesome. And he taught me everything I know about sales. And the reason I went to that office was because of a book. When you apply for your license, you will all of a sudden get deluged by real estate companies sending you letters going, come to my office, come to my office. I'll offer you everything in the world. I'll offer you the moon. What happened with Muhammad was he actually wrote me a letter that said, come to my office. I'd love to talk to you. So I went to his office and he had this book, and it was a big, huge paperback book that on the cover, it was printed onto it. It cost $14.95. So it was an expensive paperback book back then. And he loaned it to me. He said, when you get your license, bring it back to me. I don't care whether you come to my office or not, but this is a good book to study from. I think it could help you. And I was so impressed by that little gift of that book that I chose to go to his office. And it was one of the smartest sales activities that anybody's ever done, as far as I'm concerned, because his willingness to just give made me
Yeah.
feel like that was a place that I could go to. And indeed, I was there for years and I was their top salesperson. My first month in the business, I made 6 sales. I was the only white person in the whole office. Everybody else was either Filipino or Black or Asian. And Mohammed was Palestinian. His wife was from Mexico. They were lovely, incredible people. And it was really an eye-opening experience for me also to be the only white person in a situation like that.
Yeah. You don't come across those situations very often.
No, and it was good for me because I got very aware of white privilege, of the sort of incipient racism that some of us have in our heads. You can't get away from it. So it was a really interesting experience. And I left there beguiled by a company called Ford Real Estate, which was on Potrero Hill. It was an office. So I went from Century 21, big corporate thing, which was a franchise, but still had all the corporate gigas that you get, to Ford Real Estate, which was owned by Rebecca Ford at the time. And I didn't realize that when you go to a real estate company that is named after the person who runs it, that every person who walks in the door is going to be saying, hi, is Rebecca here? And so I was there for about 6 months. I had done a deal with them and I was very impressed with how very, I don't know, urbane and extremely sophisticated they seemed. And we had our business meetings with white wine and cheese and crackers and things like that. And so I was impressed by that. But then I came to the office one day and I hadn't been given a key yet. And there was a note on the door that literally said that the whole office had gone mushroom hunting and that they would be back tomorrow. And I couldn't get in to get to my laptop. I couldn't get in to get to anything. They had forgotten that they hadn't given me a key. And they also hadn't invited me to the mushroom hunt, not that I would have gone. And I realized this is insane. I'm never going to get any business here. And I'm
Yeah.
always going to be a second class citizen in this office. So at that point, I went to Century 21 Heritage in Montclair in Oakland. I had been living in Montclair. I bought a house in Montclair well before that. And it just made a lot of sense to be living and working in the same place, which is a huge thing. You should always live and work in the same place. Not doesn't have to be the same neighborhood, but the same place because it makes life a million times easier. You're not always in your car. What happened to me working in Daly City when I was living in Montclair was if I drove over to Daly City, I was there for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And because there wasn't quite enough time to get home and go back over, that's something I can impart. So Century 21 Heritage was okay, but over on this side of the bay, Century 21 is not as well thought of as it was over in the South Bay. And so most of the deals that were coming in were lower end. We had a great broker who was a very powerful, narcissistic man who reminded me of Muhammad. This guy, he was a New York person and very political. So I used to have these wonderful political discussions with him and this other wonderful agent there. And I learned a hell of a lot actually while I was there. During that time, Alon Pinnell bought the company. And I wasn't that into Elon Pinnell. I didn't like the basis behind the company. I thought that they were very sort of old school Mormon, what have you. And at that point, I went to Red Oak Realty for the first time. So the first time I went to Red Oak Realty, I was there for a year. And it just wasn't quite a fit for me. The marketing materials, I would be going out for a $2 million listing, and they would be doing their marketing materials on recycled paper, whereas the grub company would put vellum and bind it in leather or whatever. So
Yeah.
I kept on paying to get the same things that other agents had at other more high-end companies so that I would be able to be competitive. And at that point, I was like, no, this doesn't work for me. I need to go someplace else where their marketing budget is better and where they do higher end stuff. Red Oak, in the meantime, I think has gone well above where it was when I was first there. Then after that, I went to Coldwell Banker and I was there for 8 years. And Coldwell Banker is a very tried and true, extremely conservative company. They weren't using DocuSign yet when Red Oak was already using it, things like that. And I was like the company weirdo because I'm like a theater person and free spirit. So it got to the point where the receptionist at the front, whenever people would come in with tattoos from top to bottom, they'd be like, Andrea, your client's here. And that was fine with me.
Yeah.
I will take all the circus people, all the theater people, all the artists. That's my jam. I was there for a really long time, but I went back to Red Oak when my friend Vanessa Bergmark took over Red Oak. And I was there for a while. I was there for 5 years and it was fine. It's very much a click in a lot of ways. There's I love their politics. I love their attitude. I love the fact that it's a woman-owned company. But I also had issue with I was their top producer and I wasn't really part of the in club, if that makes any sense. Like everybody,
Yeah.
once again, going off for coffee at Krogan's or whatever. I just wasn't kind of part of that group, even though I was 10% of the company's business. I felt like an outsider. And when the lure of Compass came into play, I thought, you know I'm not married to the situation here.
Right.
It was really sad for me because I had a great relationship with Vanessa. And when I left, it screwed it up because I was 10% of her business. And it also made
Yeah.
me realize that what I had perceived to be a great friendship probably was more a meritocracy of her wanting me to be there making money for the company. I
Yeah.
hope
A good
that's not
business
real.
deal.
I hope that's not really the case, but we had a pretty bad falling out over it.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to her for a year. Compass is a wonderful culture. They have all the tools you could possibly want. They are filled with really energetic, high performing agents, which is what you need. You want to be around really high performing agents. The companies in our area that have a lot of high performing agents are District Homes, Compass, Red Oak, Vanguard, Sotheby's. Those are the ones that really that where you see a lot of the top producing types. And you want to
Yeah.
ally yourself and align yourself with one of those kinds of firms. It would be the best thing for you. I'm, of course, very prejudiced. I love Compass. I'm very happy at Compass, and I hope you come to Compass. But if you choose to go to one of the others, also, Daniel Winkler is a good company with good people. Those are good, smaller. If you like a more boutique feel, think about the District Homes, the Winkler, the Red Oaks. Those are all very sophisticated boutique companies. You're not going to get into the Grub company, I don't think, because you haven't done anything yet, and they won't take you. So
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for breaking all that down. What do you think when choosing a brokerage, a new agent should really be considering?
obviously you're split, what they're willing to pay you. I think that's
Hmm.
important. What their
Yes.
marketing department is like and what services they offer to you. Remember, always remember that you are the client of the brokerage, not the other way around. You're not an employee. There are many ways in which you feel like an employee when you work at a brokerage, but the reality is they are there to serve you. The manager needs to be really good. The manager, like when I have a problem, it's a doozy. There are very few things I can't resolve myself. So if you meet with the manager, make sure that they seem extremely smart extremely well versed in real estate, extremely like their level of experience is significantly greater than yours, and that they would be able to help you. If you for
Yeah.
1 second feel like they're namby-pamby or like they wouldn't have your back, don't go there. I can vouch for Lisa Cardilano over in Montclair for Compass is awesome. Daniel Winkler is awesome. I don't know the Vanguard broker. I know that Red Oak has great managers as well. These are all people who can actually help you. Never ever go to a company where the manager is selling. That was my Rebecca
Interesting.
Ford experience. She was wonderful. I loved her, but she was also the person that was selling in the office. So
Yeah.
you'll be in competition with your boss. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. You don't want that.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't even think to consider that.
Yeah. So I would say look for the culture, look for the tech tools, look for the split, and look for a really competent manager. If the manager does not seem competent, don't even bother. Dead serious.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so say you had to start your business from scratch right now on the marketing side, like you have no clients, you have no pipeline. Where would you start as a new agent to build your pipeline?
There are a bunch of people that already love you and like you that you have as friends and relatives. So I didn't do this personally, but I wish I had. I probably would have ramped up even faster than I did if I had done it. Make sure everybody knows that you're going into real estate. Make sure everybody that even your dry cleaner, make sure everybody knows that you're going into real estate and that you need their help to get your business started. Muhammad was great at that. The guy lived in Hillsborough in a mansion and drove the Mercedes Benz. And I would hear him get on the phone with people going, "Hey, Sam, I need some business. Can you send some business my way?" And he meant that for us. He was working on getting business for us. He didn't personally sell. So, what I would say is just to make sure you're not what they used to call a secret agent, where nobody knows that you're an agent.
Yeah,
I had a big problem because I was a theater person, and for a very long time, I was ashamed that I was doing business because the fact that I was doing something other than theater meant that I wasn't successful in theater, which I now know is a crock of shit because theater doesn't pay in the United States. Therefore, you have to have another job. Now I'm perfectly fine doing both. And I tell my clients about my theater stuff and I tell my theater people about my real estate stuff. And I don't have a problem with it because I realize that everybody has to do whatever they have to do to survive. So make sure nobody that you know is unaware that you've become a real estate agent. That's number one. Number two, one of my simple tricks was that I used to give out 5 cards a day. Didn't matter to whom, whatever it was, I gave out 5 cards a day. There's a guy in New York that I think is retired now, but he used to go to Mets games with a bunch of his cards, and he would stand up in the stands and throw these cards out into the stands. And he got famous for it because he would be there on all the daytime games doing that, and people actually
yeah,
gave him business that way. So that's one thing. Another thing that's super important is for you to figure out who your best fit client is. What are your hobbies? What are you like as a person? How are you as a human being out in the world? What's your level of education? Where did you go to school? Who were the people that you knew there? All of those things, you can put a Venn diagram together, talk about your best traits, and then talk about the traits you like in other people. And I think you will be very surprised at how quickly you figure out who your best fit client is. My best
yeah,
fit client is a 35 or older person who is an intellectual, wealthy, and left-leaning liberal. That's my best. So essentially, I'm a rich hippie realtor. That's what I do.
perfect. You're in the right market.
Exactly, exactly. So figure out those things about yourself. Like a friend of mine, Shauna, who's at Compass, she was with me actually at Red Oak. She was my assistant for a while and she's awesome. She's wonderful. Anyway, she used to work in psychological counseling and care for young people. And through that, she developed a huge sphere of people that are involved in health and science and children. So that's who her clientele base is actually.
Yeah,
So figure that out. Are you a mom? Do you have kids?
I am. I've got 3 kids.
Okay, so they go to school someplace, don't they?
Yeah, daycare.
Yeah, okay. So when you go to daycare, all of those people who also are able to afford to send their kids to daycare probably have friends or themselves need houses. Market to them.
Yeah.
So that's who your first set of clients will be.
Yeah.
You're not going to, and by the way, get over the illusion that you're going to immediately sell a $3 million house in Piedmont. You are not going to, I can promise you. You'll come up against me, and I probably won't even get it because some lady who lives in Piedmont, who's had family roots there for the last 10 generations, will get it. So just be humble in the way in which you move ahead in your business. Don't be frightened to sell a trailer or a condo or something small because that's how you get moving in the business. Your
Right.
same people that buy the condo will then buy their first house from you, and then they'll buy their second house from you, and they'll buy their third house from you if you give them good service.
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. You're not going to get the Piedmont listing out the gate as
Yeah, but everybody
much as we
thinks
would
they will.
like.
And it annoys me every week. I always have two or three houses on the market for open houses, and everybody wants an open house. And I understand that everybody wants an open house, but they all think I'm going to give them my most expensive open house that's brand new on the market. That is
No.
not happening. If you're a baby agent, which is what you are, you will be, you take anything that anybody gives you
Yeah.
to do because you will always find a client through it. One of my
Yeah.
best clients when I was first starting out in the business was a young guy who's African American. His pants were half falling down his butt. He looked like he could have been a hoodlum. And I was walking down the street and he said, I really want to see this house. It's for sale. Would you be able to show it to me? Because I was opening up the lockbox and going in. And I was a little scared, but then I thought, oh, whatever, sure. And he turned out to be one of the founders of a small company called Electronic Arts. And he
Hmm.
himself, at the age of 24, could afford to buy a $4 million house.
Yeah.
So you can't ever judge a book by its cover. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Don't make
Absolutely.
assumptions about people ever. And that's
Yeah.
true of all of life, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've seen what you're doing. Obviously, you've got a podcast and you do a lot of social media marketing as well. What is your approach to that? What do you think has worked really well for you? Obviously, at this point in time, I would imagine most of your business is word of mouth and repeat
Referrals.
customers.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like you get from your efforts in digital marketing?
First off, keeping your name out there is really crucial. And in terms of the podcast, I literally am doing it out of altruism. I'm not doing it for anything other than that. That it happens to be a great marketing tool is wonderful, but that's not why I'm doing it. My life is in so many directions right now. I'm actually getting my PhD right now in transformative studies, and I'm trying to be the best person I can possibly be. And I'm trying to increase the work that I do in theater because I still love it and it's still part of just the air I breathe.
Yeah,
So all of that at my age in life, I'm 69, is just gravy in a lot of ways. The
yeah,
online marketing stuff, I think that authenticity is the key to my success on my online stuff. I always tell the truth. I'm right out there. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see my business page is one thing, but my personal page, you'll see what a left-leaning liberal Democrat I am. And I have no problem excoriating Trump or any of these idiots. Not that it does any good, but it makes me feel better.
therapy. We
Exactly.
need it these days.
Yeah, exactly. Online presence, I think, is crucially important for realtors. And I've had people, I write the columns for both Berkeley Hills Living and for Montclair Living. And I've had people write me absolute negative hate mail because my liberal tendencies or whatever are showing through. And I could give a damn. They can feel that way if they want, because I probably dislike them just as much as they dislike me. It's just be aware that as long as you are kind and good and as authentically you as you can possibly be, your marketing will actually be successful.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you. I feel as I've started to dig into the industry and listen to podcasts, there's so many people out there selling snake oil. And that was one of the things when I heard you speak was the authenticity and the realness and your desire to really connect with people and having people at the heart of your business really was like, oh, I want to pick her mind.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. And I've got another thing I need to go to right now, but I want to stay in touch with
Yeah.
you and I want to
Yeah.
hear about your journey and I'd love to hear who you decide to go to. I will champion you at Compass if you decide to come to Compass. And, or if you, I know
Thank you.
everybody. So if you decide to go anyplace, I'm happy to give you a recommendation. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and enjoyed chatting with you.
All right. I enjoyed having you, and thank you for being my surprise podcast guest. Take good
Surprise for
care.
both of us. I love
All
it.
righty.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.